Coming into this offseason period for the Chicago Bulls, me and many people think and feel that the Chicago Bulls are going to play pretty conservatively in this draft. But on today's episode, I'm going to talk about the different avenues and routes the Chicago Bulls can go between Nikola Vucevic's trade value, Josh Giddey's pending contract, and the ability to trade up or down in this draft. We'll talk about all those things, plus dive into the mailbag. All that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go to get into this content for today, y'all. And I want to start off talking about the Chicago Bulls offseason a little bit, right? Like, I know we're in the weeds of one of my favorite times of year, and that is talking about the draft prospects. I love going into the weeds of that. We're going to take a step back from that just today, right? I'm going to start back on it on Monday. I want to go over some big sleepers in the draft, that names that I just haven't heard talked about quite a bit, that I do think could warrant the Bulls maybe taking in the second round or even possibly trading back into the first round. You actually have a voicemail on how that could happen. We'll talk a little bit about that today, use that as a precursor. But I want to talk about this Bulls offseason, right? And I think there's a few different ways on how the Bulls can play it, right? There's the conservative plan, the plan that is the most likely. I want to be clear here, and that's that the Bulls re-sign Josh Giddey. They make their draft selection, right, in the first round and in the second round, and then they try to move Vooch, right? That's the kind of the more conservative. Even if you don't move off Vooch, rather because the market's not there, still think they're going to shop him, and that's perfectly fine, right? I think that's the conservative plan that we're at right now, the most likely scenario for the Bulls. Now, in that, it comes down to you're still setting yourself up a little bit for the future, because what is the value of Josh Giddey's contract? For some people, that question is still up in the air. Me, if the Bulls give Josh Giddey $30 million, it is what it is, right? I'm not mad at it. I think when you look at starting point guards, that's about average that you're gonna pay for a starting point guard, especially with the youth that Josh Giddey does bring to it. And I'm seeing people with the comment section like, "Oh my God, we can't give him that. It's Zach LaVine." It's not any of that, right? It's not the Zach LaVine situation. It's not any of that. But I got episodes on that. I'll tag those here so you guys can go and watch those if you want to get into the weeds there. But that, and then you make your selection. More than likely, a defensive player focus there, whether it's a center or a wing. I think we've seen the Bulls kind of have an inkling towards either, but defense kind of being the focus with offensive upside. And you try to move off Nikola Vucevic. That's one of the most conservative plans you can have. A little bit less conservative, right? But I wouldn't call it aggressive either per se, is you do all the things we mentioned before, and either in the midst of trading Nikola Vucevic or separately, you acquire a player like Jonathan Kuminga. I think if you go into this season and you re-sign Josh Giddey, you make your draft selection of a big, right? Because I think if you're going to go after Jonathan Kuminga, that takes away the wing need. You're going big there. And then you try to get Jonathan Kuminga in here, who is a player that keeps being linked to the Chicago Bulls. And, can understand the reason why. I still have some questions about the fit. He's another on-ball dominant player. You already have Coby, you have Giddy, but maybe Coby isn't part of the long-term plan. Again, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that it would make me raise some questions if you acquire another ball-dominant player. And then on top of that, like for me, it's the modest aspect of it. I want Modest Buzelis to take on a larger role in the offense next year. Does he do that if you acquire a player like Jonathan Kuminga that, he's going to be 23 years old the majority of next season? He's still young, but like you're still trying to figure out what you have in Modest. So I think that's another aspect that you have to look at this at least a little bit in a way, right? But we'll see. I think overall we'll see. But what's the aggressive, right? And that's kind of what I want to focus on a little bit more. We've talked about those other aspects. What's the more aggressive offseason that the Bulls can have? I think that's a combination of the first two plans that we mentioned, but you move Coby White, or you move Ayo, or you move Lonzo, right? And even though I know Lonzo isn't this huge contract, but I do think if you move him this offseason after re-signing him, that does show a level of, hey, we know we gave you this deal, but we may be looking to do some other things, right? I think a combination of one to two of those players being moved, whether it's Coby or Ayo and Lonzo, right? That's the aggressive offseason that you see there. And what are the chances of the Bulls being more aggressive this offseason, right? What's the chances of them looking to move on from a Coby White? And to me, it comes down to some simple things, right? A, do you think Coby's going to re-sign here? And if you have any doubt of that, inkling of that, because he's going to more than likely go through restricted free agency, if there's any inkling of that, what do you do? Right? And that's the question that we don't talk about enough, right? Like, Nikola Vucevic's trade value is one thing, right? Let's be clear. I think, at this point, you're not getting a whole bunch back for Nikola Vucevic. At this point, like, if he's part of a Jonathan Kuminga trade, meaning that the Bulls are probably going to end up sending some seconds or a protected first or something in that deal as well. But if he's part of a Jonathan Kuminga trade, great. But if you're talking about Vucevic's value other than to a team that has a piece they already want to move in like a Jonathan Kuminga, then I don't think that he has the best value out there, right? I don't think you're going to move Vuce and get even maybe a low-end first-round pick at this point in time. Now, maybe, if you trade him to a team that's a surefire playoff team, maybe you can convince them to give you an unprotected first, or maybe a first that is like, all right, look, listen, if this thing don't go, like, it's going to be lottery protected. That way, if this team goes left, the team that's trading for Vuce is protected there. But, overall, I think that's the most of what you're getting, right? I think you also have to ask yourself, do you want a lottery protected first, and then the team decides halfway through the season, hey, this ain't working, we about to be a lottery team? Or do you want a couple of seconds that's guaranteed, right? I think that's a question that the Bulls are going to have to ask themselves and be honest about the value that you hold there. But then you get into Coby, right? If you don't feel that you're going to be able to re-sign Coby, or if you're not going to be willing to offer the money that Kobe's going to be willing to get or probably get offered in the unrestricted free agency, to me, you have to move him. And that sucks to say. Like, I've been very vocal on the fact that I want Coby White to stay here. I love Coby White. You've drafted Coby White. Well, not this front office, but he was drafted by the Bulls. He's been here. You like to keep and hold on to players like that so they can continue to grow in your system, in your team, those type of things. But I'd be remiss if I did not say, hey, unfortunately, if he's not going to re-sign here, or you're not going to be willing to pay him, you have to shop him. You can't afford to lose him for nothing, right? That's not the place that we're at as far as value either. We can't afford to lose a player of Kobe's skill set, regardless of how you view him. You can't afford to lose a player that has shown what he's shown in the NBA, albeit inconsistently, for nothing. I just don't feel you can do that, right? I don't feel that you have the risk tolerance to lose that player and potentially not get nothing in return. That's where you need to get aggressive at. Ayo, same thing. If you know that you're not going to keep Ayo, and maybe because of the money you pay Josh Giddey and Coby, that Ayo's not a player that you can afford to re-sign and keep, then you have to move him. I mean, it's just the business aspect of this at this point in time. Now, you don't have to do it this offseason. You can wait till the trade deadline, but we're talking about being aggressive in the offseason, right? I think that's the place that you have to get into. Now, I think that, I said at one point in time, I don't think you have to decide between Coby and Ayo, right? And I still think that to a certain degree, that's if you're going to build this team organically with young players and through the draft. But if you're going to end up making a swing on like a Jonathan Kuminga or something that's rumored, like making a big offer sheet for Jaren Jackson Jr. next year in restricted free agency, if you're going to do something like that, that may be to where you can't do it. Now, financially you can, but then you'd have to be willing to fill out basically the rest of your team with either rookie scale contracts or veteran scale contracts. But I do think that the Bulls are approaching that place to where, yes, they have financial flexibility. I want to be clear here, but it's the financial flexibility on top of the potential of losing these guys for nothing. If they had rights on them to where they have matching rights, no. Now they do have bird rights, right, where they can offer the most money more than any other team and an additional year, which is a flexible point in that. But I don't think you can really afford to take that risk if you're not 100% sure you're going to be able to re-sign that guy. And that's where it's going to lead to, is AK willing to be more aggressive than what he's been in prior years? I don't know that he is. I can't say that he is. I can't bet on that he is, because this is Arturas Karnisovas that we're talking about, right? And so that's the place that the Bulls have found themselves in. And so when you hear some things like a guard could be on the board for the Bulls, I don't think that you can really take that and completely overlook it as an impossibility just because of how things are shaking out, right? So if a team like Orlando is sniffing around Coby, which I do think with their draft assets they can get somebody better, but let's say they are sniffing around Coby White, right? What would it take to do that, right? You have to ask yourself that, and it's going to take more than just the 25th pick in this draft, though, to be clear here, right? Kobe's worth more than that. But I think that's the place that the Bulls have to ask themselves and have to be willing to be put in to try to see. Now, they also have 16. Is that worth it? Like, is that worth it? If the Orlando Magic came calling and they said, hey, listen, the Bulls would already have to have an inkling that Kobe's not going to re-sign here. But if the Orlando Magic came calling and they said, hey, we got 16 for you this year, we can talk about 25. You may have to give up something else if you want 16 and 25. But we think Kobe fits in this type of score that we need here on this team, and we have the defensive players around him that he's going to be fine. I think you have to entertain that. I think you have to entertain that. And that's something that's interesting for the Chicago Bulls, that you could lead into the season where, if that's the case, what do you do? Because I can tell you this right now, that there's a high probability that you can get a guard and a big if you have 12 and 16. So, that's, again, something to look out for down the road. Not something that I think is likely to happen, but those are conversations that I at least hope that the Bulls are having internally, because the last thing you want to get caught is with your pants down around your ankles, and then you end up losing out on a player for nothing. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. But all right, also let me know what you guys think. Do you want to see the Bulls play more conservative? Do you want to see them be more aggressive? What do you want to see them do in this free agent period? Let me know that down below. Okay, let's get into the voicemail section for the day. Let's get into this first one. This first one's from Josh.
What up, Haize? Chicago Bulls Central. This is Josh out in Arizona again. Last voicemail I called wondering what we could do to grab Jonathan Kuminga. I know he's going on that restricted free agency, but on this question, I'd also want to offer a different player who we could get, like, as a T-Will replacement. A really good defensive player, I would think, too. I was wondering if there was any way we could trade for Jabari Smith-Parker, I think, over there on the Houston Rockets. That dude is a defensive lock. Offensively, I believe that he could be successful, but he doesn't need that many shots. Really, though, I would be thinking we would pick him up for his defensive capabilities. Although I don't know what we will be able to trade to the Houston Rockets to grab a player like that. I don't know, maybe a couple picks and like a player who could match his salary. I think he's still on a rookie scale deal, so I don't think it would take much. Maybe like a T-Will and Vibe card. Sounds stupid, but depending on the picks we could throw in there, I think we would be able to trade for a player like that. So I don't know. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you guys think on Jabari Smith. All right. Out of here, see red.
Could the Bulls pick up Jabari Smith? Here's the thing. If for example, the Houston Rockets, who I do think have their eyes set on an actual star, if they strike out and they call you and they're like, hey, we want Kobe, Jabari Smith is the first. That's the barrier of entry. You can keep Jalen Green. I don't need another inconsistent chucker. But Jabari and that's the thing. If we already draft a big, then it's probably not going to happen. But I don't think it's likely, to be 100% honest with you. I think that Jabari is the chip that they're dangling to go out and get a Giannis or a KD or a Devin Booker, right? I think that Jabari is the one of the pieces that they're dangling. We did also hear yesterday that they are also open to moving Sengun to get a star. And if they do that, if they trade Alperen Sengun for their star, then Jabari's probably going to become their starting center. So at that point, I don't think it's likely. I don't think the Bulls really have a big chance at landing Jabari Smith. I just don't. But hey, maybe I'm wrong on that. I guess we shall see. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from TJ.
Yo, what's up, hey? This TJ from the low end, bro. I want to start off this voicemail spreading some love, man. You need to give that man Brian a job, bro. This dude has been going above and beyond on his fucking mailbag since I even started peeping or, recognizing his name when he show up. Give this man a job. He's applying for it. He sent a video mailbag. Who the fuck is doing that? Real talk. Give this man a job. But now to the meat and potatoes. I really just got like a simple question. What are the odds of the Bulls actually like trying to jump back into the draft after the lottery? And like, what would it take? What do you think it would take? What would you be willing to give up to get back into the draft? And like, yeah, if you was to jump back into the draft, who would you jump back into the draft for? Like, who would be worth it to you? But yeah, man, that's it. Peace. Stay blessed. See Red Nation, y'all.
Brian is amazing, and Brian's not to release some talks, but you could be seeing Brian on a platform sooner. But I love to keep happening with Brian as long as he wants to be and contribute to the channel. But how do the Bulls get back into the first round? That's a great question. I think that a combination of your second round picks and the Portland pick could get you there, right? Now, that's a could. If you use your own future first, that's a higher possibility. Now, if I'm the Bulls, I don't necessarily want to give up my 2026 first because that's a deep draft and the Bulls haven't made moves to clearly make themselves a playoff team yet. And if you end up being a play-in team again and going back into the lottery, I want that 2026 picks because that draft is deep. So if you can use a combination of your future picks, 2027, the Portland pick, your second round picks, I think there's a chance to get you back into this draft. And I assumed you mean back into the first round, right? Because we have a second round pick, but you said back into the draft, so I'm assuming you mean first round there. And so I think that can get you back into the first round of this draft. Who would I target? Two players. One, Hugo Gonzalez, who is a guard/forward out of Spain that I've talked about before. Two-way player, attacks the rim, athleticism out the wazoo, working on his three-point shot, but I can see that working out for him. Love Hugo Gonzalez. Before the nature of talking about a different player in this draft that I am going to get into in another Sleepers episode, Juan Berenger out of France, power forward/center, a legit 6'11", I think with a 7'2" wingspan. Somebody correct me on that if I'm wrong. He's only 18 years old. Young guy. This would be an extreme upside pick. Think of kind of a more athletic Yves Missy and what he did last year as a rookie. And I was wrong. 7'3" wingspan, right? This dude can be an elite rim protector at the next level. As much as I've talked about and I've given like the Joakim Noah level defense to Asa Newell, no. Juan Berenger could definitely be a Joakim Noah type player. Shot blocking, lob threat, crazy upside, athleticism out the wazoo, everything about it. And I tell you what, as much as he's still filling out and rounding out his body, he looks comfortable. 6'11", 230 at 18 years old. I think the combination of mobility that he has, the ability to get out in the open court as well, all those type of things, Juan Berenger is super, super a sleeper in this draft. And like I said, he's going to be on tomorrow's episode when I talk about players, but I'd be willing to trade back into the first round and getting him absolutely. He's a long-term project, and I know that's going to scare some Bulls fans off because we've talked about Dalen in that way, Julian in that way. But I tell you what, you talk about like a mix between Daniel Gafford and Joakim Noah, that's probably who can be on like he has one of the best shot blockers in the NBA type ability and a crazy lob threat. He doesn't really stretch the ball too much right now, but I tell you what, he's also a pretty good passer as well. I'm telling you, Juan Berenger, he's honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. I know a lot of mocks have him going later, but I'm surprised there isn't more lottery buzz for Juan Berenger, to be 100% honest with you. That dude could be still in this draft. So that's the player that I target if we get back into the first round, late into the first round. But great voicemail there, TJ. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Todd.
Hey, what up, bro? It's Todd, man. It's been a minute. I am calling after your Cedric Coward show or review. Listen, all right, I'm going to give you my jump out the window take. What if I told you that there were two players, both 6'6", both 21 and over, both averaging 17.7, they're in college, and one has a 6'11" wingspan, the other has a 7'2" wingspan. One was 198 pounds, the other is 210. One had 5 rebounds per game, the other 6.2. One had 1.8 assists per game, the other 1.9. One had 54% field goal, the other 59.5. One had 1.8 steals, the other 0.9. But one had 0.8 blocks per game, the other 0.6. And lastly, one had 2.4 turnovers per game, and the other 1.3. What if I told you that one of those players, and this is my jump out the window take, so don't flame me, but one of those players was Cedric Coward, and the other was Michael Jordan? That is what I see when I see Cedric Coward play. Not Michael Jordan as a Bull, but Michael Jordan as a UNC Tar Heel in his senior year. I realize he only played 6 games. I get it. But bro, this cat can be a star, and we would be stupid if he is on the board to not take him for the potential. Now, he didn't hit game-winning free shots like Jordan. He didn't play all 4 years. We talking about a 6-game sample size. But dude, this cat could be exactly what we need. 3-level scorer, defender, everything. And I know we need a big, and I've been calling out, Common Maluash since we started talking about this year. But listen, I'm throwing all of that out the window. After seeing this man's tape, watching the scouting reports, all the things, we gotta go get Cedric Coward today. And if he ain't there, then cool. Yeah, I'm good with Carter Bryant, Thomas Sorber, all of the other bigs that we talked about. But no, we gotta go get Cedric Coward. That is my take. It's jumping out the window, and yeah, I called the name Michael Jordan, so sue me. But tell me what you think later.
First of all, making a comparison to Cedric Coward from MJ is crazy, bro. That's wild, especially when you look at his low usage and stuff like that. Like, he's an older player, so I don't know how much the ceiling is there for him to turn into a player like that. But I do like Cedric Coward a lot. Like, I won't lie to you. I like him a lot. I like his skill set. I like there's a reason why he's shooting up draft boards. And I would say this. You do consider taking him if he's there at 12. Now, I still lean more towards taking a big, but if he's there at 12, you got to take a long, hard look at it, and you got to make a tough decision, because I do think he's going to be good, right? I don't know about MJ, but I think he's going to be damn good. And I think he'd be a really good pairing at that small forward position with Modest Buzelis. And if you lose Coby White, he can play guard. So I like it a lot. I like Cedric Coward. We'll see how he turns into, but great voicemail there, TJ. I'm sorry, Todd. Let's get into this next one. This one is from Ed.
Yo, what up, Haize? I'm doing a late voicemail. I just want to know who you got going at pick 12 and why? And do you think it should be a center, guard, forward? Well, I know you've been saying center in your videos, so that's what I think we should do with the first round pick, a center, and then second round get like a guard if we move off Coby, but if not, then get a forward that can defend too. I don't know though. Let me know.
Ed, I appreciate the shorter voicemails, but I want to hear more of your thoughts. Like, I get it asking me a question, but the voicemail bag is also for people to get their thoughts off in the community. So just make it a little longer. But who to take at 12? Right now, I'm Thomas Sorber at 12. I think he offers the upside, the back-to-the-basket scoring, the face-up scoring, a little bit there, the passing, the defense, the shot blocking, the rim protection, the rebounding. I think he offers a lot of what. Now, he's not as switchable as I kind of think a perfect big would be with Giddy and Coby, but he gets you 98% of the way there. And so I really like Thomas Sorber. He's the guy I take at 12. He's the guy that I think really brings a lot of what the Bulls need, want, and some things that that in the future as he grows and progresses, he has a chance to be a pretty favorable part of that offense too. So Thomas Sorber is who I'm at right now at 12. And I think the Bulls, I think he'd do really good for the Bulls. But all right, let's get into the last voicemail. This one's from Reggie.
Hey, this is Reginald calling back after hearing you and Pat talk about, Giddy getting his money or wanting $30 million, and he's right to do so. I mean, the only way you're going to get him for under 30 was when he was probably in December, when he was averaging like, what was it, 12, 5, and 6, or 12, 6, and 5, or whatever. You probably could have gotten him for around 20 to 22 million. He was playing terrible defense. He wasn't shooting the ball well. He was still getting you assists and rebounds, but, at the end of the fourth quarter, couldn't play him. So if you wanted to give him 20 to 25 million, that was the time to get it to him. But as we all saw, he continued to improve not his individual defense, but his team defense, which allowed him to play all the way up to the end of the game. And he won a couple of games for us because of that. Now, when the fact that he wants $30 million, you can't say he hasn't earned it. You can't say he's not at worst the third best player on this team. And I honestly find it hard to find two guys better. But yeah, $30 million. That's the right number for him. Now, what the Bulls offer a guy like Coby or Ayo, I'm not sure. But what Giddy earned is what Giddy earned. And as for whether the Bulls can move up or down, I hope they find a way to move down in draft. Not because of I think there's a lack of talent, but the players who will probably be gone by the time they get to number 12, Queen, Mott. I'm seeing some drafts that say even Sorber might be gone by 12. And you know what? If that's the case, and someone like a Danny Wolf or Ace Newell, with Ace Newell apparently falling down the draft, if you still want to get a big, you could probably trade down to somewhere like Minnesota, who has the 17th pick, and you can get the 30th first pick in the second round back in return. You can still get a Danny Wolf. You can still get a Lindbergh or Raymond. You can still make those moves. But what do you think? Go ahead and pay Giddy his money and maybe think about trading down? Thanks.
Giddy has earned that $30 million, and it just is what it is. I'm not even going to spend a lot of time talking about it. He's earned it. It is what it is, and we're going to leave that there. As far as trade down, no, this isn't the NFL draft, right? And I keep saying that, and I know people keep bringing up trade downs, but you don't see trade downs as often as you do in like the NFL because every pick matters that much more, right? So if I'm the Bulls, I just stay at number 12. I take whoever's number 1 on my board at number 12, and I keep it pushing. I don't think you're going to gain a lot of assets by trading down in this one. Now, if a team calls and presents itself, great. If that happens and you can still get your guy, great. But I'm perfectly content staying at number 12, getting your guy. I'd more rather try to trade back into the first than trade down, if that makes sense at this point. And, we talked about that on the previous voicemail, how the Bulls can try to get that done. But that's where I'm at with it personally. But you guys can let me know how you feel down below. That's my time for today. Happy Sunday to everybody. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullsCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.